Hey guys, welcome to Make You Remarkable, a brand new podcast brought to you by Oconee State Bank. I'm your host, JT Tomlin, and on this podcast, we're going to be talking all things leadership, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Our goal is to ignite purpose and inspire passion in our listeners by asking them the question, how will you make you remarkable? We'll be interviewing local legends, business owners, and leaders within our communities and asking them about their road to success. Like, what kind of steps did they take to get where they are now? What does it mean to be a leader? And how can I lead my team? As well as what kind of mark they've made and what kind of mark they hope to leave in the future. This is going to be an amazing podcast, and we cannot wait for you to listen to it. So make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and follow us on social media at Oconee State Bank for more information. Today, I'm joined with Cole Porter. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Yeah. All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Cole Porter. I am the president of Porter Steel, and we're in Lilburn, right outside of city limits, kind of close to Lilburn, but between Lawrenceville and there. And we are a structural steel and miscellaneous metals company. So that's what I do for my day job. And it's kind of all wrapped together in my life since it's a family business. I've got a wife, Caitlin, and 3 kids, Amos, Hannah, and Abram, and they keep us very busy. And so I'm very involved with everything that they do, and then also I'm pretty involved in my church, and and then everything business that kind of folds over into the community and everything. So
yeah, tell me a little bit about the history of Porter Steel. How did it get started?
Sure.
Where are you in like the lineage of
the continuum?
Porter Steel?
Yeah. It was started in 1983 by my dad, Low Porter. And it really started, he and my mom were newly married, and my grandfather was already in the steel business on my mom's side. And he was not very handy, and he asked my dad, or I guess he was planning to do like a driveway back, a reverse porch or whatever. Or
some sort of driveway
thing.
You
know what I mean, yeah. And so, and he didn't want to do it, he was going to pay somebody to do it, and my dad, I guess, was like, I can do that for you. And so apparently the story goes that he did such a great job that my grandfather was like, man, if you do that so well, then on the steel jobs that we don't want to do, I'll give those little jobs to you. And so my dad bought a truck and a welding machine and had a little bit of experience working in steel, and just it kind of took off from there. And so he just started with a truck and a welder, and
the rest is history.
The rest is history. Grew from that to what we are today. So
nice. So where do you come in? I mean, you obviously saw your dad as he was starting the company. Well, not really as he started the company, but
wasn't there quite yet. But yeah.
The company was running as you were born. So what kind of impact did that have on you, and when did you start working for Porter Steel?
Yeah, so we were started in ’83, and so now it's our 40th anniversary this year, which is really cool, something to be proud of. And I wasn't born until '87, so got my age there. So, for the first many years of the business, my mom worked professionally as a project manager for a sign company. I certainly grew to understand, by the time I could be a child and have a cognizant memory of what was happening, I felt like the company was pretty successful. But there were many years that my mom was having to be the breadwinner because of the company just getting started and, hard times, starting a business like that from nothing. So I know that business involves sacrifice. That was something that was really ingrained into me, just because of, that right there, my mom having to work to provide. And so when you see a company like ours that I would say is very successful now, it's kind of understanding that it wasn't always that way. And so there is sacrifice involved in getting it to that point. And I think a lot of people overlook that. So I definitely had that in my mind. And then also just like the time that my dad would spend in the business as a business owner, and the stresses you could see on him from the different things that he went through, whether it's economic ups and downs or, financial issues or just an employee that does the wrong thing that he has to deal with. So those are things that impacted our family from a very, and me seeing that from a very young age. And that kind of informed my view of, what business is and how, while it can be very rewarding, it's also a lot of sacrifice. And so it kind of gives you a good picture of what you may be getting into if you choose that lifestyle, if you choose that route for your life.
Yeah, like
so I remember that
picture of entrepreneurship.
Right. And spending time away from the family, long nights sometimes, and then sometimes having the freedom to spend lots of time away from work, you know? So it's kind of that juxtaposition of, yes, there's great rewards, but also there's great sacrifice. And I think that because I saw the business as something I was very proud of and something that I felt like was worthwhile and admirable, it kind of taught me that all things that are worthwhile and admirable also involve that sacrifice and benefit, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of view my life that way of like, if it's worth doing, it's going to be hard, but hopefully it's rewarding too. So.
Yeah, that's a valuable lesson to learn, especially at like a younger age, is that you have to work to get something that's valuable.
Yeah.
And really anything that's of value is going to take some effort. It's going to that literally just rephrase the same thing. But I mean, you know, it's you got to work for something that is really valuable.
Sure. And I think too, like in our culture, a lot of times we only see a very small window of someone's life or something. And so to know that, you know, it's all about perspective, and that's in more than just that particular instance in life. You know, everybody has a different perspective and everybody has a different experience and where they came from. And so to not judge people necessarily on what is right now, or to kind of see that there is more to that story than just that right now, you know?
Yeah. We were talking to someone the other day just about how everyone is not just like a single moment. They're a whole like truckload full of experiences that really make who they are.
Right.
If you don't treat someone that way, if you treat them as that one experience, you're not going to really understand. You're really not going to have a rational understanding of who they are.
Yeah, and like because of that exact principle, I mean, you know, we're all flawed human beings. Like I have lots of mistakes I've made, and I work through them daily. And so if you're caught in a mistake in particular, like if someone's looking at you in your mistake moment, like that summarizes your entire being at that moment, you know? And so it's like, what is the background there? And, you know, having the empathy to realize that people are more than just that circumstance, you know? So that's pretty important, I think.
I think one of the things that's so impactful about family-run businesses is that there tends to be a lot more understanding there for that's what we're talking about, like understanding the individual as opposed to just seeing them as like an asset within the company. It's more of a like the owner usually sees the entrepreneur employee as like someone who is like that collection of memories instead of just, oh, well, you did this bad job. Now you're fired. Tell me a little bit about that, like your experience with having a family-run business and really the culture within your company. Yeah.
So, you know, I guess with it being a business that spanned 40 years, a lot's changed in 40 years. So, you know, I can remember like there's pictures in the office of me walking as like a 18-month-old on a beam with my dad holding my hand or whatever. And he's dressed in all 80s apparel, you know, like you can clearly tell it's from an era gone by, you know? And so, but you know, the management style was very different then. The expectation of employees and the expectation from employees of an employer was different. So I think as times change and as new generations come up that have had different experiences as a collective, obviously the workplace changes, cultural demands change. And so I think it's really important to be relatable to the different groups that you're representing in your company. I would say that we really are trying to make Porter Steel the best place to work in our industry, and not from a like we don't aspire to be on some list that's like the best place to work. You know, like that'd be cool if we were recognized, I guess, but it's not about that for us. It really is kind of like about the mission and trying to really care about people. And it starts if we do everything to care about people in the community, but we treat our employees like crap, then, you know, it's all kind of for naught. And so I think that our influence has to start with the people that work for us and work with us and then kind of branch out from there. Because it just times change, you know? And so we really try to create like a robust benefits environment, a balanced lifestyle for our employees, encourage them to take paid time off, even though sometimes they don't want to. You know, it's like we have this not as a bank account, but we have it as like we genuinely want you to take this time off because we believe you'll be better. You know, like we believe you'll be better if you are rested and you come back to work rested. You know, or if you have the ability and the freedom to take off for an emergency for your kid or whatever, do that. Don't feel like, what if I take my time off and then they replace me. It's like, no, you should be secure in your job. Like it's good. Go,
Yeah.
So it's funny too, I guess we have several employees that have been there for 35 years. My dad's first employee still works for us.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So he's one of our lead men in the field, our foreman. And so we've got a good chunk of, I would say, a handful to a dozen people that have been there for over 20 years. And so then you've got, and of course, if you can do the math, they're older than me.
Yeah.
And then you've got some folks that are very new, right out of high school or college, or technical school or whatever. And so very different generations and very different work experiences coming together, and then you creating a culture that you need to have embraced by everybody. And so that's something I found challenging because you really have to do some work there. That's not just like snap your fingers and it's easy. And yeah.
Well, I found it's really impactful. Like when you have multiple generations kind of working together, one of the things that my church really focuses on is multi-generational communication. Like having small groups that are someone who's 30 years older than you, 40 years older than you, but then someone who's like also your same age or like maybe only 10 years older.
Yeah.
Because everyone has different insights, and you'll learn something from someone that was 40 years older than you who then ends up learning something from you too, that you can both apply to your life. And it's really valuable. Yeah. But kind of talking about what you were saying, what are the mission, vision, and values of Porter Steel?
Yeah, so recently in the last few years, we've really tried to become very mission-driven with all of our employees. So we've always had a strong mission statement, but really it was more of a mission that we embraced as a family. And so in a nutshell, it was pretty long, but in a nutshell, our mission was to basically work as if unto the Lord and to put Jesus first and basically our faith statement as our mission.
Yeah.
And so we still, I speak for myself and for the leadership of the business that we stand for that. And that's important to me. And so now we have a faith statement that incorporates that, but we really wanted to have a mission statement that we could hold our employees accountable to.
Yeah.
And so obviously I can't, we have a very diverse group of employees and we love them all. And, we want them to feel welcome at the business. And I can't hold them accountable to hey, you haven't loved Jesus enough today. If they don't embrace my faith, then, that's cool. So we as leadership have a mission, have a faith statement that where we thank God for the grace he's given us and the blessings he's given us. But our mission statement is pretty simple. It's just to improve lives and to lead by example. And so it has nothing to do with steel. It has nothing to do with anything in our family. It's simply to improve lives and lead by example. And so we want to accomplish that mission by the things that we do. And, it happens to be that we do it through steel. But we think that other people can partner with us in our mission if it doesn't have anything to do with steel, So you can come alongside me if you believe in that mission, and then you can think of ways you can support that. Maybe you're a vendor, maybe you're a customer, maybe you're an employee, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just someone who believes in what we're doing and you want to partner in that. Yeah. So you can be a part of that mission. So
I think that's important to have a mission or a vision, values that everyone can get around, that whether it be within your community or within your organization, that everyone understands and is kind of on board with, especially with improving lives and leading by example. You're saying, hey, we want to improve your life. We want to be there and support you. But then everyone within your organization is I want to improve my life. I want to help lead someone. It's important.
Right. And so we ask that our employees embrace that mission. Right. And so if you do not believe that you want to improve lives and you do not believe that you want to lead by example, and you have no interest in those things, then it's probably not a good fit for you at our company, And then of course we have our vision, which is really to become the leading provider of miscellaneous metals in the Southeast. Miscellaneous metals, light structural steel. So it kind of encompasses the steel portion of our work. We're growing. We have plans to really make a mark in our industry. And so that's where the vision piece comes in. It's the big vision long term. And we feel like we've set some things in place that we can really achieve that. And then we also hold people to our core values. And so our core values are own it is the first one. So take responsibility for what you've been given. Every part of the business, know that it affects every other part of the business. It's a holistic outlook. The second is partnership, the second is integrity. So obviously be honest, but focusing on reputation. And then the third is partnership. And that is, we don't want to be transactional. We want to be relational. So we want to develop those relationships both inside the company, outside the company, building that trust, and then creating the service out of that, and not of what can I get? Like, if you're going to give me this, what can I get? And then the last is fail forward. And so that just basically means we're all going to have mistakes. We're all flawed. We're all going to try new things and fail. And all that we ask is that you learn from those things.
Yeah.
Don't stay in that place of mediocrity if you're mediocre somewhere. It's okay if you are, but just don't settle. Like, just continue to push forward. And if you can hold to those 4 values, you're a right person for our company. And we use those to try to hire, fire, correct, encourage, like all those things. We try to use those core values in.
Yeah. I think that's really important because you talk about owning it and taking responsibility. And to really lead with that is like showing your team that, hey, if you own this and you're honest, like, we're going to support you, we're going to take care of you, because we want to create an environment that is safe, that you're going to, if you mess up, we want to know about that, because from a business standpoint, we need to know about it. But also we want to support you and not make you feel like you're alone in that. We want to help you kind of grow. But also I love the fail forward. I think that's such a cool way to say it. Cause like, yeah, everyone's going to fail at some point. Like, it's just inevitable. Yep. But if you kind of encourage this mentality of, hey, since we're all going to fail at some point, why not go ahead and fail forward? Let's build this environment where you feel, I guess, safe to fail.
Oh yeah.
And you're able to recover faster because you're not living your life or working your job anticipating failure as, oh my gosh, when I fail, I'm done. Or
right.
I'm
It's
gone.
not like a termination kind of event, like a lot of people think that failure means I'm out or failure means I'm over, and we have to recognize that we are going to fail, like no matter what. And like, I fail all the time. So it's okay. And I'll admit that to the employees and say, hey, we tried this thing and it didn't work. And like, we're a very entrepreneurial environment, like, because we are growing, we are trying new things. We are, we are leading with our mission and our core values, which is very different for some part of our industry,
Yeah.
So for you to tell a welder, like, hey, your mission today needs to be that you need to know that you're changing lives and leading by example, right? And so first, like, I'm laying a weld down, like, okay, but what is that doing, right? Like, you're fabricating a column, and it's going to go in a building, and like thousands of families are going to use that building for whatever purpose that building is for.
Yeah.
So you're making an impact there. But beyond that, what are we doing with the employees? We provide for 80 families plus, in our employee. And then we are involved in our community. And so the money made off of that column that you maybe welded together made an impact, So it's understanding the big picture and how it all holistically works together. And that's kind of the strategy. If we can get people to understand that, then they'll want to be a part of it, we think.
Yeah. And like you said, changing the mindset from the transactional mindset to more of a relational mindset of, okay, what I'm doing is making an impact on my community. How can I see that and not take this as a transaction, but okay, what I'm doing is helping someone else in their life, that relational mentality.
Absolutely.
And you talked about being involved with your community. Tell me a little bit more about how Porter Steel is involved with the community.
Yeah. So, we're involved in a lot of different ways. As far as like civically or association wise, I'll just kind of go through some of those things, but we're very involved in the Gwinnett Chamber. I'm on the board of directors, and I also serve on the public policy committee for it. And then we're also longtime members of ABC of Georgia, which is Associated Builders and Contractors. And I'm also on the board of directors for them and on the public policy committee. So we're involved in those organizations. We're also involved in several trade organizations, the Southern Association of Steel Fabricators and AISC, and just several other, industry specific. And those are great because we're able to meet folks that are, if you go to the chamber or if you're at ABC, well, ABC is very specifically construction, but you've got general contractors, you've got subcontractors, you've got other professional services. So not everybody understands steel or the history of our industry or those kind of things. But when you go to an industry specific conference or a group, it's like everybody knows each other, first of all. So it's like very, I don't want to say incestual, but it's just like everybody knows everybody's worked everywhere. It's just,
incestual?
Yeah, I don't know if that's like a good word, but maybe you edit that out. But it's not everybody.
It's a really fun term.
Well, the point being that everybody's worked everywhere. Everybody knows everybody. So got off track there.
No, you're good. I heard that and I was like, no, he didn't just.
Yeah, I guess they did.
No, but I get what you're saying. Like it's that community involvement where you're like, everyone knows everyone, and there's your competitors, but at the same time you're like your friends.
Well,
so
I think
like
the reason I say that is because it feels like if you're in the steel industry, you're part of like a family, because it's just very unique and different, And so, when you go to those specific places, you really are able to share, like when we share our vision and our mission in those places, it's like, like that's interesting, because
doesn't yours say steel?
Right. And so, and I feel like that causes the people that we want to work with, that we want to partner with, because partnership, that it really, they can see like, oh, these people are serious about what they're saying, like they really put it all in and they're really going for this. And so it's really cool to go to those and be a part of those groups. What else? So we definitely try to be involved when it comes to like nonprofits and, sponsoring golf tournaments and things for nonprofits, that whatever we can do to be involved on a very like corporate level. But we also have our family foundation that we just started.
Oh, really?
Which is called the Porter Family Foundation. And so we're really excited about that and what we're going to be doing with it.
So what is the Porter Family Foundation? Like, what are y'all looking to do?
Right. Yeah. So essentially it is through the Community Foundation of Northeast Georgia. And what we do is, we give a portion of our revenue to the foundation every month. And when we complete a project, we will be giving a small donation to a nonprofit in our project area. So like we're very involved locally, like we support a lot of sport, high school athletics and nonprofits around us. And we will continue to do that. And we want to make even bigger impact there. But we also have like this conviction that we want to be good stewards. And, we're based out of Gwinnett and Lilburn, but we travel all over to do projects, because we fabricate and install our own steel. And so if we go into Doraville or we go into downtown Atlanta or Marietta or Chattanooga or wherever we are, we're going in that community, we're making money, and then we're leaving. And so we just felt like it would be the best act of stewardship to leave something behind in those areas and just, share a little bit of appreciation for what we were able to do in that community. So we basically are going to be identifying nonprofits in our very specific project areas so that when one completes, we can make a donation to that nonprofit. And we want that nonprofit to align with like our vision and with our values. So, but we're just really excited to make an impact. We've already, made a lot of progress on being able to give to the foundation. And so actually this month is when we'll be doing our first donations out of that for that, program.
And that's huge. Talk about leading by example. You're really showing, especially like what you're talking about with the conventions and people within your community, you're showing like, hey, we don't have to just do steel. We can also be involved in our community and make a massive impact. Because like you said, I mean, when you're as a company, like you are going into a community and you're performing a service and you're taking revenue out of that community through that service. Right. But if you're able to give back to that community, it's such a really unique and beautiful way to show like, hey, we're not just here for the money. We're here to really make an impact on our community. Yeah.
And we also want to be really clear that like, we're not going to like tell the whole world every time we give, money to some nonprofit. Like we want to, we don't want to brag for the sake of, just telling people that we're giving, but it's that leading by example that we really want to push, because we feel like if other businesses embrace that model just to the level that they can, it doesn't have to be anything huge, but just if every business did that, for instance, well, there would be a lot less need for, government assistance or we could actually make big strides in homelessness and in food insecurity and those kind of things that plague our societies. If all the businesses did that. And there'd also be a lot less complaining from people that don't fully understand business, to say like, oh, they're just corporate, they're just business owners, those mean business owners. It's like, let's show them that like we really do want what's best for our community. We want to be good stewards of the blessings that we have. Yeah. That's really important to me to show, and that's part of the perspective piece, right? And knowing the full story, not just looking at that one moment or that one circumstance, but really seeing the whole journey. And I think that if we lead by example in that area, that has the biggest way or the greatest potential for making a really big impact. And we also are inviting our GC partners and our other trade partners to give alongside us when we make those donations, so to make even bigger impact.
And that's huge. I mean, really talking about like y'all's your faith statement and your leadership. Again, I keep coming back to mission, vision, values, but that's the core of your company. It's important to, I mean, it's great to have a good mission, vision, value, but it's a whole different thing to see that company not only say them, but then also perform them. Yeah. And to really invest in your community is, I mean, huge. And you're showing that like, hey, like our faith statement, what we have everyone in our company at least know really does mean something to us. And we're putting our money where our mouth is, per se, and really making a difference within our community. It's huge. And especially being like community stewards, like you're trying to really, you're not just giving back, you're building your community to be better by helping the little guy or helping someone who's like with charities or with people who are trying to give back to the community by supporting them. Like as a steel company, you might not have the ability to go and like house 50 people who need a home, but God's really gifted you to be able to financially support someone who is. Right.
And, and we want to, we want to make it very known that that is the mission, like, and we're very serious about it. And that we do. And I think if people understand that we believe that we can accomplish that, and that's why we're doing it, then it makes it easier to come and partner with us in those things. And like the response by the few GCs we've told this to, like, hey, just want to let you know we're wrapping up your project soon. We're going to be giving to a nonprofit right down the street from the project. They're like, oh my gosh, we would love to partner with you. So it's not even something that's very difficult for people. It's just the idea of it and getting it out there so that it kind of gains traction.
That's so powerful. I mean, really, you're able to bring people alongside you by just kind of sharing your mission, by sharing, hey, this is what we're trying to do. And I know that you have a similar mission vision. So let's connect on it. Or even if you don't, like, I want you to know what we're doing. Not so I'm like trying to get money out of you, but I mean, you're making that impact within your community and saying, hey, I mean, whether or not you give, I want you to know what's going on so you can choose and decide to do that.
And there's no judgment on like if you can give or not. It's like totally that's between you and God, or between you and your own conscience, whatever you want to call it. Like you do you, but we want to give people the opportunity, and just and share what's possible, and there's no judgment.
It's all you can do. All you can do is provide opportunity for people.
Yeah. And I also want to be really clear that, we're very faith forward with our business, but like we admit that I personally make tons of mistakes. I'm not a perfect representation of Christ, and our business is not either, so it's part of that fail forward mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're tying everything back and we're saying like, hey, we know we're not perfect, and you will never find us on a perfect day. Like you will always find something wrong with us, and we admit that, and we're cool with that. We just know that we really are trying to fail forward and be better. And
that's what makes a 3D company. I mean, you're saying like, hey, this is what we're striving for. It's not what we actively are every single day.
Right.
Anyone who promises that is just lying.
Yeah, we want to be really transparent and real, and like, and even in my personal life, I want to try to be the most authentic person I can be, and I struggle with that sometimes because I think, you, especially in like the salesy networking kind of realm, sometimes you walk into a different room and you like kind of know the face you want to put on for that group, and so really just being very authentic and trying to be yourself, acknowledging that you suck at some things and that you're good at some things, and just be you and go for it and do what God gave you to do. Try to share what you're supposed to share and lead where you're supposed to lead,
It's a powerful thing. Okay. So we were talking about like your community involvement and how Porter Steel is involved in the community. Talk a little bit more about that. I heard you were president-elect of the Rotary Club.
Well, yes, I am the president-elect of the Duluth Rotary. And so I'll be starting my year term in July 1st or so. Yeah.
So what does that look like? What are you going to do with that?
Well, it's kind of cool because, the Rotary is all about service above self. And so I had my meeting this morning. So, and it's really cool because it's like-minded folks that are also, involved in business or in nonprofits or in organizations that are very successful, but at the same time, we're trying to put aside time each week to give back. And so it's great. You're building relationships and you're you're breaking bread with people and things, but you're also able to come together with what you have and make contributions and serve and volunteer. So every president has like their own theme that they're going to have. So I haven't quite nailed mine down yet, but it's going to be something around perspective and having like empathy and things. So I'm excited about that. I'm, a little bit, you never are quite prepared for the time commitment, because it's never like a good time to add more stuff to your plate, but I'm really excited about the potential impact we can make as a club. And so Joe Godfrey is going to be president of the Gwinnett Club while I'm president of the Duluth Club from Oconee State Bank. So I'm very excited about that. He's a good friend.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of other friends that are going to be presidents at the same time of other Rotary clubs. So we're really...
Sounds like a president's gang.
Yeah. We're really excited to have some group events together where everybody is having a good time. So
y'all should totally get like the oil paintings, like the president oil paintings.
Yeah, commissioned oil paintings.
Just make your social media profile the oil painting.
That would be cool.
That would be pretty awesome. I don't think that's in the budget though. One. I would buy one. You'd make the money back.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe.
So on top of being the president-elect or about to be the president of the Rotary Club, you're also the board of directors. You're on the board of director for the Gwinnett Chamber and associated builders and contractors committees, correct?
Yes, I'm on the public policy committee for both the Gwinnett Chamber and ABC of Georgia.
Cool. So what does that mean, like public policy? What are you going to do?
Yeah, so on the public policy committees for either one of those things, basically public policy is just, working on legislation and issues that are important to that group. So it's a little bit different working with the Gwinnett Chamber and the Associated Builders and Contractors, but essentially working on legislation that is good for business, good for our economy, good for families of Georgia. We work on local issues and some national issues, but politics has always been a really strong passion of mine. I just think that it's really important that we have good leaders representing us.
Yeah.
And also doing our duty to make ourselves heard, even though sometimes we feel like we maybe don't have a voice or that it's not being listened to or any of those things. I think it's really important that we exercise our rights and get involved on even just a small scale about the things that we know most about. And so that's basically what we work on those public policy committees, is making sure that the Georgia legislature and the politicians in Georgia understand where we stand.
Yeah.
And they understand the full impact of the decisions that they make, because, there probably I know that there aren't a ton of contractors or builders in the legislature. There are some, and that's great. But a lot of folks that are making the decisions, they want to ask us. They're like, well, how is this going to impact your industry? And so we have to educate them and also thank them for the representation that they give us, and just hold them accountable, but also thank them for their service, because it's not always easy. So
yeah, and you talk about improving lives. I mean, what better way to improve lives than to be there with the people who are making the decisions and say, hey, this is what impact you're going to make. Like, this is how that whatever law you're going to pass or this bill is going to really impact the average American or just the average household. You just got to know what those decisions do. Yeah. Even just being in the room, you're hearing what's going down so you can prepare as well.
Exactly. And a lot of legislation has really good, like I would say most legislation from someone's perspective has really good intentions, but it's really thinking through all the ramifications of that one thing that maybe you're addressing and how that's going to affect this and ripple down to every other aspect of life.
Yeah.
Because and I tell people in business, I'm like, everything that they do under the Gold Dome or in Washington, no matter what it's about, it's going to impact your business somehow. It could be in a really minor way or it could be in a really major way. And so the motto for us at ABC of Georgia is get into politics or get out of business, because it's that important that those things affect us. And so we can't do everything to solve every issue, but we can at least be involved and let people know where we stand and what those impacts are going to be. I always joke around and have this belief that the best form of government in the whole world would be a just king in an absolute monarchy, right? And the worst form of government would be a corrupt king in an absolute monarchy. Because you think about if people have justice and good intentions and wisdom, like the wisdom of King Solomon, for instance, they're going to make really good decisions for their people, right? And so we don't have that. We don't have a monarchy, which is good. But we also need people to exercise those same principles and have good intentions. We need them to use wisdom. We need them to be just and be fair and show compassion and have empathy. And also with the wisdom part, really think through every part of what they're doing, because it's going to make huge impacts across our state and across our country. So
yeah, and you're really doing that by saying like, hey, I know what I'm doing here, and I really value this, so I'm going to choose to spend the time and put the effort in to make sure that people are being wise, or that there is a long thought process behind each decision.
Sure.
That's a powerful thing.
Yeah. And I would just encourage everybody to be involved in whatever way they can. And because, for instance, I'm not a teacher, so I can't comment, on every aspect of education legislation, so I got to ask people that know, I got to understand and try and seek to understand,
right.
So that I can be educated on those issues. So.
But at the same time, you're a father, so you have that understanding of, right. So I don't know the teaching aspect, but I know what's right for my kids.
Right.
And so there's that really cool, can't think of the word, like a good foil.
Well, it's like a synergy, because like there are teachers, for instance, that don't have kids. Right. And so, but I'm a father and I have kids. So, what's the goal of education? It's to essentially in the long game, to make our children productive and successful citizens in one way or another, and so we do that through educating them with facts and figures and lessons. But the teacher has to understand the home life of the child, and the parents have to understand the education process of the child. And, but it's all about perspective and empathy. Like, we have to sympathize with a teacher that has an overcrowded classroom and can't teach everything that she feels she would need to teach. And she needs to empathize with a parent with a busy household and all these different things that we're trying to do. So I
think COVID taught us all a lot.
Oh
about
my goodness.
That.
Oh gosh.
Just learning like, wow, okay, teachers have a lot to deal with.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All the parents are like, okay, well, I did not realize that there was this big of a commitment.
Yeah.
And all the teachers are like, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on at home.
Right.
It's a really powerful thing to just kind of be aware of that.
Yep.
But kind of going down on a different direction, I heard a rumor that you were in a movie.
Oh gosh.
And I want to clarify. Were you in a movie?
Yeah. So I was in a movie.
That's so cool.
Which it sounds way cooler than it is, I promise.
I don't think so. I think that's pretty cool.
So it's a documentary called The Ark of Lilburn, and it is about our family and our business, and a weird story about our family where basically my dad, when he got a little bit bored with the business in the early 2000s, he decided he was going to build a steel yacht. And so it's a steel trawler yacht that we built at our facility. When I say we, I'm speaking for the company, not for myself. And so it was built about 90% complete, and that's when the Great Recession happened. And basically just all production on the boat shut down, and it just stayed there in that shop kind of collecting dust. And so we decided we were going to move it because we really needed the shop space. And it just so happened that at the same time, a production company was filming a pilot in our community for a series they wanted to do. And they asked if they could use our shop for like production space, because it was like, we need an old warehouse. And they're like, great. Yeah, you can use ours. And so when they saw the boat, they're like, what are you doing with this? And and people say, we call it the boat shop. Okay. And so there's a boat back there. Okay. That's cool. And then you walk back there and you go around the curtain, and it's like you have to look up to see the bottom of the boat. Like it's a huge yacht, and so people are always blown away by it. And not that it's like a huge yacht for being a yacht, but it's just a really big boat.
No one really understands the real size of
it's not like a John boat back in the shop, it's huge, and so it took up a whole, section of our shop, and we were just determined to move it. And they were like, we have to film this. And so my dad was the executive producer, and then it was professionally shot. It's pretty cool because it shows a lot about the business and like our history, but it also talks about the actual project of moving the boat and those obstacles that we overcame or didn't overcome, depending on how you look at it. And then it also goes into like my relationship with my dad, a little bit of our family background.
Cool.
So it's a really cool piece, and it's you can get it on demand on like Prime or Apple TV, and you can watch it for free. On like
down.
Vudu and Tubi, I think. So
I said Apple TV. I'm totally gonna go watch that.
Yeah, you should pay for it.
That's so cool. I will. I mean, it's not that I'm biased or anything, but I just gotta go watch that.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is it called the Ark of Lilburn? Like what's going on I know y'all are moving the boat, but where's the name come from?
Producers named it that, and we kind of just went with it. But essentially, they're like, why would you build a boat this big in the middle of the land with no water anywhere? And that's what all the employees said too. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you not build it?
Like, do you know something we don't?
Yeah,
what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. And so, and there's even like a part of the movie where I talk about, I was like, it wasn't like a Noah thing, I promise. Like, it was just, probably just not the best idea, but we went with it. And so the idea was that he wanted to do that as a project to see if it was like a proof of concept, to see if he wanted to maybe build more boats. And then if he did that, he would buy a shop on the water or build a shop on the water and build them there. But just never, he doesn't want to build any more boats. So,
but you'll let us all know if there's like 2 of every animal showing up or anything. Oh yeah, right?
I would let everybody. I would tell everyone. Yeah, you can follow my social media for that.
Yeah, go follow my socials. I promise. We'll let you know.
I'll let you know. Yeah,
that's so funny. So he just sporadically was like, I want to build a boat.
Yeah, we grew up. We had like a fishing boat, and he's always loved the water and loved boats and things. So it was something that he went to boat shows, and we used to vacation down in Dauphin Island, Alabama. And if you go through that area, there's like shipyards in that area near Mobile Bay. And so, I think just the fascination of like, we know steel boats are built, so maybe I could do it, and so that's kind of where it grew from.
So where did y'all move the boat, and have y'all finished it?
Yeah, so it was 90% complete. Now it's 90% complete. And
nice.
Yeah, so it was moved from our shop in Lilburn up to a marina near Knoxville, Tennessee. And then once it's complete at that marina, it'll be brought down the Tennessee River. And then there's something called the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway, which is a really pretty locked canal. And then it goes to the Tom Bigby River, which goes to the Mobile Bay.
So will we see an Ark of Lilburn 2 of y'all?
Someone
sailing?
else is going to have to pay for it, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what I hear. But maybe if it gets enough traction, maybe there would be a 2. But
that's cool.
But right now, I'm not focused on
the
movie star lifestyle.
This was just a sporadic thing that we did.
Yeah, it was kind of.
So when are y'all planning on finishing it, making that 100%?
Yeah. So my dad's fully retired, and so he's that's his job. Like, he needs to focus on getting the boat finished.
He's just spending his time up there building a boat.
Well, he's not right now. And so that's why I'm trying to encourage him is, you're the one that's retired. You're the one that doesn't have like work to do every day. So you need to go finish this boat,
He's like, I'll do it later. I'll do it.
Yeah. This is on his own time, so.
That's cool though. I mean, that's a really cool experience to be like on a set, watching everything happen, see like what the process is like.
Yeah. It was cool. Man. I mean, it was very like nerve-wracking the first few times that you're shooting, and then after a while it kind of becomes kind of natural, and like you're always gonna have a mic on, and then you forget you have a mic on, and then you say things that you don't want the mic person to hear. But it's very interesting. It was cool to see the whole production and the different aspects of a movie and whatnot. So
I'm pretty sure I just burped extremely loud in the mic.
That's okay.
No. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
I tried to cover it, and I was like, oh my gosh.
No, it's all
I
good.
just couldn't stop laughing. But that's awesome. It's a really cool experience. So how have y'all used that? It just released, right? Like it just came out.
It came out in December. And then it just ended. It was exclusively on video on demand for like 90 days. And then it is still on video on demand. And now it's on Tubi and Vudu. And you can watch it for free with ads. So if you don't want to pay or rent it, you can just watch it for free with ads, but you got to watch the commercials.
You should totally pay or rent it.
Yes.
But that's awesome. So how have y'all used that awesome? I mean, it's a great asset to be able to use within, especially as a business.
Right.
How have y'all used that so far, or how do you plan to use it?
We haven't like used it particularly. Like, we don't want it to be,
too much of a bragging moment.
Well, we don't want it to be like, work with us because we were in a movie or because we did a movie, but what I hope, and this hasn't been like a planned thing, but what I hope personally is that, it wasn't scripted at all. It was and you could look at it and say, wow, this is scripted, because there's so many things that went wrong and were funny. And, but like, that's like the daily life at Porter Steel, like as far as like the funny part, and kind of manage chaos sometimes, but with change and with growth, that kind of just happens. And so, stabilization is definitely welcome. Yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, I hope that people, when they watch it, they can see like the real people that we are and the people that they would potentially want to partner with in their work. That would be the only thing I would hope as far as like from a marketing standpoint. But I do think it gives people a good insight into the history of the company to know like kind of where we came from, get that bigger picture and perspective. I think that it kind of tells a little bit about me and my dad's relationship, which is sometimes complex. And
as they all are.
Yeah, exactly. And then also just being able to see some of our people in action and what we do. So.
So on a different note, I mean, kind of thinking about that, this movie is pretty remarkable. Just the fact that y'all, a film crew just happened to be in the area and happened to find the warehouse, or like y'all happened to ask you about the warehouse.
Right.
What does remarkable mean to you? I'm curious.
Well,
it's a big word. Take your time.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to think about. I think literally, I mean, it's something to do that people would remark about, they would make remarks about. And so what's worth mentioning twice, like what's worth really keeping as a memory, like if I'm just talking it out of my own head, that's kind of what remarkable means to me. And the fact that we can all do something, we can all go through our life and accomplish things. But what is really remembered, like what is something that is like legacy, that is where you made an impact that people, we all have limited brain space. We all have limited memory space, but what did you do that someone used their valuable brain space to keep a memory of, or what have you promoted that stuck with people, And so I kind of see that as remarkable.
So what has Porter Steele done to create remarkable experiences, to really make that experience where someone's like, wow, I want to talk about this twice, right?
Yeah.
I want to keep that memory in my brain.
Well, I think that historically, even before we did like really new branding or fresh mission statement or any of those things, I think historically we've always been really high on integrity with our customers, and making sure that we stood by our word. And we also started, being that my dad started doing those small jobs that the other steel companies didn't want. Well, that's kind of how we started doing the more difficult jobs that other folks didn't want. And so sometimes in construction, when you're a general contractor and you're trying to buy out a job, sometimes there's some really nasty projects that are really difficult and not glamorous.
And no one wants it.
And no one wants it, and you got to really figure out, like, how am I going to get this done?
Yeah.
And I think we were known for being the one that would come through, stand by our word, but also do the things that other folks wouldn't do. And as we've evolved, that's turned into us being very agile, very able to roll with the punches, adaptable, those kind of things. So I think that's probably a piece of what makes us remarkable. I think going forward and kind of like in the present, I think that what we're trying to do with our mission, vision, values, and being involved in the community, and really just the leading by example piece, like just trying to, like, why is a steel company super involved in the community? Why is a steel company super involved in the chamber or any other organization? Well, it's not because we're in front of people that we want to sell to all the time. Like, there's very few people in the chamber, for instance, that can actually be customers of mine. I'm not selling chicken sandwiches or insurance or real estate. Like, I am selling steel buildings and steel stairs and rails. So there's only like a handful of people actually in those groups that would be able to buy from me. But it's really about building the influence so that when I speak or when I do something new, that I have the influence to create change, right? That I have the influence that people are like, oh, wait, because of the influence and because of the leadership, I want to hear what they're saying over there.
Yeah.
And so we feel like we can impact the greater business community and the greater society as a whole if we do those things. And that's part of just the influence piece of it.
Yeah. And I mean, being that influencer per se, like that's really important, because not only do you have credibility, but also kind of going back to mission, vision, values, like you've said, you have the resources, but also the credibility, like I just said, to really make that change. Like, you're able to say, like, hey, I really think that this is an important thing that we should be looking at as a community. And because you've really worked on that, because you've made that remarkable experience and people trust you, you're able to say those things with credibility. Gosh, I can't think of a better word.
Yeah. And I think too, like, there's always a fear of the unknown of things. And so, like, when you're trying to start something new or do something a different way, like, it's really easy for, going back to politicians, it's really easy for a politician to say, hey, you guys need to do this way. Well, there's a lot of fear of the unknown. There's a lot of things that, like, what is that going to do? How are we going to react to that? What are the changes that's going to cause? So if we can kind of be like the forerunners of doing things, and not to say we're the only business that's ever done anything good or noteworthy or involved in their community or anything like that, But if we can be the ones that say, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to fail forward at it and we're going to make some mistakes, but we're going to really give it our all. Well, once we've done it, if a measly steel company can do it, well then, a much more put together other company can do it, you know? So like, we just want to be that. We want to lead by example and use our influence in the best way possible.
When we're talking about like creating remarkable experiences and making, being influential, going off of remarkable, I mean, when you first heard the terms make you remarkable, what did that mean to you? Kind of what impact did that have on you?
Yeah. I mean, I think with, make your mark, it kind of is what sticks. And I think that there's, at least inside me, I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like because I'm such a dreamer and future looking person that like making my mark is an important thing to me. And I think the battle is not to let it be an egotistical thing or a selfish or vain reason for wanting to make your mark, right? It's really has to be with the good intentions. And so checking ourselves there. But I think that it goes back to that I want to do things, and not necessarily that people remember me because of those things, but that they remember the things that were changed, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of times we think back in history of like very impactful events, and oftentimes we don't remember the exact people that were involved in those events. You know, I like history, and so the Boston Tea Party, for instance, is one, or any other number of American history. You might know one or two people that were involved, maybe, but really it's the thing. It's the idea. It's the what it caused. Those are the things that you remember. And so, I hope that I can be involved in a lot of things one day. I hope that at the end of my life and past that, I hope that a lot of the things I was involved with are remembered, and not necessarily historical or anything like that, but that they made as much of an impact as they could, and that they were really noteworthy to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, my dad always used to tell me, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. And as cringy as that sounds, as fortune cookie as it sounds, it's real. I mean, you can say the most beautiful thing, that like the most incredible collection of words on the face of the earth, but if you make the person you're talking to feel like an idiot,
right,
they're not going to care. Right. You could be the best business owner out there who has the best numbers, has the best finances. They make the most incredible products, but every single person that comes in touch with them or encounters them is just like, they're not nice. They're not fun to be around. Yeah. Their business is going to fail. It's all about how you make your customer feel. Yeah. I mean, hearing what you say, you really are making your customers feel really powerful.
Well, and we hope that, but we also want it to come, like, we want it to be very genuine, So we'll also tell people that, hey, we're not good partners because our values don't align. Like, we just don't have we don't treat people the same way. Or I have to protect my project managers. And I want them to be treated with respect and with dignity and fairly, not manipulated. And so it's okay for us to tell a customer, hey, we're not going to work with you anymore. And nothing against you guys and nothing against us, but it's not a value alignment, And I think if we have the courage to do that, we're standing up for what we believe in. It makes huge inroads in morale to your staff. That's like, wow, they're standing up for me, not just money, because we can make a lot of money doing these things, but we can make that same money maybe with another person that's more partnership oriented.
Yeah.
And so, and there's a lot of people that say a lot of right things, right? They say a lot of facts that are true. You could even take somebody that says 100% of true things. I don't know if you know someone like that, but if they do, and
there are plenty of people who think they do.
Right, exactly. But if they say it 90% of the time the wrong way, or in a degrading way, or in a condescending way, well, they're not going to be effective at all. And they've actually taken the ideas that they've spoken and they've worked against them because of the way they delivered them, And so it's super important that we come from a place of authenticity and do make people feel good because we're actually doing the right thing and not just because we're trying to make them feel good.
Yeah. And I mean, talk about supporting your team and leading by example by saying like, hey, we're not going to be a good fit because I know that our values don't align, or I know that our team's not going to work well together. That's such a great way to, like I said, lead by example. You're showing your team that you do care about them, and it's not all about the money. It's not all about the finances, because their not comfort, but like, I mean, I guess their comfort working with someone is important to you, and you're taking that into mind.
I think you want to feel secure in your place, right? You want to feel secure in the fact that you're bringing value to a company, that you are a valuable part, that you're contributing, and that someone has your back, that there's some kind of safety net of like, hey, I got you. I support you. So when you go into that meeting, even though I'm not there, you know I got your back. If you're accountable to the things you're supposed to be accountable for, right? Because sometimes it turns into a situation where at first glance, the situation is, oh my gosh, the customer they're completely wrong and they've messed us up. But then you start digging deeper. It's like, no, we did not do the right thing. And that's why they're saying these things, they're acting this way, is because you didn't do the right thing and you weren't accountable. And so you got to be accountable for those things. That's a fail forward moment.
Yeah. Understanding where you're wrong and being able to move past it.
And then be okay with saying to them, hey, we were wrong. Like, we were wrong. We're going to make this right. And we're going to continue to be a good partner to you. You know, so, and it's all about just being real. I mean, I think in business, we try to pretend and protect the business and just pretend like we've got it all figured out and then we can do no wrong. Yeah. And if we do wrong, the first instinct is to cover it up.
It's not us. It wasn't me.
Yeah. Point the fingers. And that's pretty common in our industry, in construction. And so, you know, we just want to be a good example in the fact that we are being real, that we are not perfect, but we will fess up when we messed up.
Well, and that ultimately makes a good company to work with, because if someone's just going to pretend that they know everything that's going on, and the second they hit something they don't say anything about it, well, then 5 years later, you're going to find that issue, and it's going to be like, well, why didn't you say something? I'd rather if you've come to me and been like, hey, your foundation's not like level, or I don't know, I'm not in construction, but I would rather you've come to me and tell me that wasn't a good job, as opposed to pretending you knew what you were talking about.
Exactly.
And it's just, I mean, that's really credibility and being able to own up to your mistakes or own up when you don't know something. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, I don't know what that is. It's just a valuable thing to learn.
Yep.
So you were telling me earlier that you do speaking engagements for like entrepreneurs and business owners. How does someone like get in touch with you to actually schedule that? And what are some tips and tricks that you would give entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So I don't actually, haven't done a lot of speaking engagements in a formal way like that, but I do give, whenever I do a sponsorship where I can give a talk, I really love to, you know, of course we mentioned Porter Steel, but it's really important to me that I encourage that group in a very like topical way that's important.
Yeah.
So definitely looking for more opportunities to do that, whether it's leadership or very specific issues that a group is meeting about. I'd love to be a part of that and to be able to speak. And of course, you can find me on LinkedIn or any other way. Go to Porter Steel. You know, there's lots of ways to find me, but would love to be able to encourage any groups that need someone to do that, and just kind of give thoughts on leadership and how it pertains to any situation or issue that people are going through.
Yeah, as we talked about, like being involved in your community and being there, like that's a great way for you to really encourage your community and also show how you can lead by example, because you're a recognizable face within the community, and then you kind of talk about what it means to be a leader and how your company is doing, like what you're doing here. You're talking about how your company is making its mark, making it remarkable. It's a great way to actually lead by example. Mm-hmm. But what would be some tips and tricks that you would give entrepreneurs, some like tangible ways that they can become better leaders or really grow their company?
Well, I would say that I am like just on the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. So I don't really, I have more tips to be had than probably to be giving, but where I can give tips to is, I would say that one of the more intimidating situations that I've been in has been, going up through the company and getting involved in the community and different things for the first time can be super intimidating. Especially when you go into a room and you don't feel necessarily like you're worthy of being there or that you have a place there.
Yeah.
And so particularly with young professionals, or if you are a young professional or you are maybe new to a new career or something like that, or just don't have the confidence in any kind of group that you're going into, know that everyone was in that place. And I would just really encourage people to look for commonality and don't seek a purpose. Look for the relationships and just try to stick with it because it can be uncomfortable. People always talk to me and they're like, you're so good in groups of people. And I'm like, well, I'm good in groups of people when I know someone there. I have super anxiety when I go into a room, I don't know a single person and no one knows me. That is anxiety for me. Right. And so that's really challenging to push through that. But when I know people, I have that level of security of like that base camp, you know, and then you can meet new people because I know this person, so I can meet you, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just how my brain works. I think a lot of people are have that slight introvertness to them. But I would also say if you aren't like that, in those situations, I think this is part of leadership. Be inclusive of the people that are new and make them feel welcome. Give them a chance to break in because, you know, coming from that other place of being super anxious, if someone can come in and break the ice and say, hey, how are you? You're so welcome. I'd love to get to know you. Well, then guess what? You've just made one connection where they now know you. And now that's that level of comfort that they can have and branch out in the rest of the group. I mean, that can be from a networking event. It could be a board meeting. It could be, you know, any situation. Really try to make people feel welcome and included because you can just do wonders for them. I think that was probably the biggest hurdle to get through when I first started getting involved in like the chamber or the community as a whole. It's just the insecurity of, am I good enough? Like, should I be here? And then once someone else affirms like, hey, welcome, you should be here.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're like, oh, I should be here. And then you're ready to go, you know?
Yeah. And the reality is everyone's had that moment. They're all like, okay, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm just starting, like I'm too young to be here or I'm too new to this environment. But the reality, like I said, is everyone's gone through that. And to be that person, it's like, hey, welcome. Hi, I'm JT, or hi, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. But to be there and comfort someone is a vital thing to be able to do because you're there to help them feel welcome.
Right. And I also think for people to be authentic with who they are and not try to put that face on in the group of what people want you to be, like just be you, because eventually you're going to feel bad about not being you. And so really try to bring what you can bring as your strength and, you know, try to work on your weaknesses, but know that you are who you are and God made you that way for a reason and just really try to live that out.
So specifically, what would be a good tip for someone who's starting their business or who's starting their entrepreneurial journey or like just a young professional in general?
For people in like starting new business or entrepreneurial kind of minded folks, I would just say surround yourself with the people that fill your weakness gaps because
hire to your weaknesses,
but also build friendships to your weaknesses and don't if you feel yourself leaning towards hiring yes men and yes women that just want to affirm everything that you do, like run from that because you'll never see your blind spots. You'll be, it's just a recipe for disaster. So I would just say, you know, both in technical skills as well as personality and things, you know, find people that can be on your team that can call you out and hold you accountable, but can also fill in on your weakness spots.
And similarly for someone who's like a seasoned professional or who's a little bit older in the industry, what are some tips and tricks you'd have for them? Because, I mean, you said you worked with people on the whole spectrum. Someone who's like Porter Seal had people who were there from the beginning and people who were there just a few weeks young.
Right. So I would say for folks that have been in the workforce for a really long time or have even been leaders for a really long time, just acknowledge that that folks are all different and that especially generationally, every generation has a little bit of different quirk to them and to show compassion that things are not, and they will never be how they always have been. So just because we used to do it a certain way does not mean it's the best way to do it now. Embrace fresh ideas, give your wisdom freely, and really pour into those that need the wisdom and need the experience, but also don't be afraid to accept new ideas, a little bit of change, and a little bit of compassion for folks that see things a little bit differently than you.
It's that kind of mentality of, yes, that works and that's a great strategy, but you do need to be aware that there are more things coming. Like, especially with like social media and technology, it's definitely something to be wary of and to be aware of. But at the same time, there's so much good that can be done through it. Understanding that, yes, the ways that they are the is it tried and true? They're tried and true methods. But there are newer methods that you can be aware of, and you don't necessarily have to be all on board, but you have to be open because that's what makes a good team. A team is someone who can give advice, but also learn from others. Like just as the younger people need to learn from the older people, the older people need to learn from the younger people.
Absolutely.
I know that's one of those things that people hate to hear.
Yeah. And like our motto is powered by principle. And so like, you know, always stick to the principles. Like the principles, you're right. Those are tried and true and they should never change. And you should always make sure that everything points back to those, but be like agile and flexible in the methods, right? Like, you know, you can still achieve the things that you want to achieve and stand by the principles that you espouse. But you may do it just a little bit different way with the times, you know, like, so just don't be afraid of that, you know, but that doesn't mean everything should change. You know, some things should stay the same, but be open to it if it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, as we're kind of winding down, what does the future of Porter Steel look like? What's the growth plan for you guys?
Yeah. So we've probably tripled in revenue over the last 3 years. So we're just on a very good growth plan. And right now about 95% of our revenue is from Atlanta and North Georgia. And we have a very strategic growth plan for the Southeast. And so we're making a lot of partnerships. We're going after work in other metro areas. And so we're just very excited about it. We have really big plans for like our long-term goals. And for our employees, we have a cities map, and we want to win all the cities in the Southeast. And so what that looks like is whenever we sell a certain amount of revenue or bill a certain amount of revenue in a new city, we mark it as like 1 on our map, and tell the employees like, hey, we've achieved our goal. We've won these 2 cities or whatever it's going to be. Just leaving, because we know if we do that amount, then we've left our mark there. We've got a presence, and we can build off of that. And we know to achieve our long-term goals, it's going to take expansion into more than just Atlanta. Even though Atlanta's been really good to us, and we're always going to be in Atlanta, we want to make an impact even greater. So yeah, we're really excited about that.
You're keeping track of all the places you've made you remarkable. But
there you go.
That was really cringy. Please do not use that. Please don't. Anyway. Thank you so much for coming. Seriously, I mean, everything you've shared is insanely impactful, at least for me, and I know that everyone's going to really get a lot from that. Go ahead and share your social media so people know how to keep up with you and really hear more about Porter Steel, and if they want to hire you, come find you. And
yeah. So on LinkedIn, Porter Steel Inc., and then myself, Cole Porter, we're there on LinkedIn, but also on Facebook and on Instagram, Porter Steel Inc. We'd love for you to follow us and keep up with, you know, things as we develop and as we share new things. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And guys, if you want to go watch the movie, make sure you go and find it on Vudu and Tubi.
Yeah. Or anywhere
Vudu
else.
and Tubi. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. And guys, make sure you follow us on your favorite podcasting app at Make You Remarkable, and follow us on social media at Oconee State Bank. Adios.